Hi, this is Ben. I would like to talk about my story with this church called the Lord's Recovery. It's kind of a mainly Asian based church. My involvement with it was between 2013 to 2016. 2013 was the first year I arrived at the United States as an international student from China. The reason I was brought into the church life in the Bay Area with the Lord's Recovery Church was because my host family, they are very, very nice Taiwanese family. They took me into their house out of respect. I participated in the church life. Now, hindsight, more than 10 years later, I realized that this church experience played a decently big part of shaping my perspective of the world and also who I am right now. I just wanted to share like a little bit of my thoughts. I remember the first day I came to the state. The date is August 23rd, 2013. I remember that day so vividly because my host family did not take me back from the airport to their house first. They took me from the airport. I think they took me to get food, and then they took me to a church, a meeting hall location in, I believe it was in Fremont. I remember being there jet lagged, being 15 years old. My English weren't that great. I probably didn't understand a lot of things that the brothers and sisters in the church life were talking about. I was falling asleep in the back of the room, like the meeting space. I just remember that people were very energized. There were a couple speakers in front. They do a lot of chanting, shouting out their devotion to the Lord. I literally remember I was drooling because I was sleep deprived after like taking like a really, really long flight. Towards the end of that meeting on my first day in United States, I remember that one of the brothers was saying, "Does anybody else want to get baptized?" There were a couple people getting baptized on that day. They have a specific place for a bathtub, and then they give you this really thick robe that's like completely not fitted to your size. I was so young, and I just remember like kind of waking up. My host family were looking at me, and then somehow either they like persuaded me to raise my hand or my hand just raised by itself. So I just remember saying yes to get baptized without knowing what the word baptism meant. So I just remember waking up and then swiping away my, the drool and then going to the front. They took me to one of the bathrooms, and then they gave me this thick robe. It's beige colored, heavy, and then I wore it, and then I came out, and then all the brothers and sisters. I believe in that church, the language for, I guess, the anointed is they call them saints. Like all the saints were like saying hymns. They were like shouting for joy, and then there were a lot of amens while I was like getting into the water. The water, I believe it was really hot, I remember. And then I don't know if I was ready or not, but like they, push you back, and then I was shortly like submerged under the water, and then I was immediately being pulled up, with a hand from back of my neck. And then I just remember that like for the rest of that day in that meeting, everybody was coming to me and like congratulating me, like, you're part of the brotherhood. And I thought that was interesting. So that was my first day in the state. And my first year in United States, I was going to this school for ESL, as in English as a second language, because I wanted to go to this school. I was too young. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I was kind of expected to go to like a better school, like that's more like American, more mainstream. But my TOEFL score was a couple points short. So I had to take the ESL class for the first year, and then I can go to this next school, which the school name is called the King's Academy. It's based in Sunnyvale, California. In my first year, my only like community was the church at Lord's Recovery, and also my experience at school. Trying to figure things out with the ESL classes. That ESL school that I went to, it was not like a religious school, so I didn't really have that much of a reference point. So, but I started to have a little bit of more of a reference point when I got into this mainstream high school called the King's Academy. And King's Academy is also is a Christian high school. Most of the students who were there, like they all like that's when I like in 2014. That's when I noticed that like people go to different churches. It's not just that one church that I go to. So that's when I started to look a little bit more critical at the things that I observed firsthand while within the Lord's Recovery. My experience was I would be expected to go to young people's meeting, which is usually on a Saturday, and then all the kids would gather at one of the families' home, usually very nice, because the parents all kind of made it. They were like old, they're not old, but they were first generation immigrants from China, from Taiwan. They came to United States for much higher education, and then they have family and they found Christ, and then now it's the second generation. So I was hanging out with this particular group of students alone, like just within that group. And every Saturday, I was expected to just be with that group. It's also like because this would be my second year and third year in the state while going through high school. So it was kind of I felt a bit restricted. I didn't really have an option to like hang out with like people from, let's say, outside this particular church, even though we share similar beliefs, because the brothers and sisters who are very devout in this church, hindsight to me are very particular about your access to the believers, but that don't particularly believe in the same way. Like I feel like I'm getting, even though I was much younger, like I already knew that. Like I feel like the people from Lord's Recovery are they do feel like they're better and more disciplined than other Christians because they interpret Bible in a certain way. The first 3 years, because I was living under a roof of a devout Christian family, I followed to I followed their footsteps. They were very interested in me, having this, to have a good belief in Christianity, because I understand that to them, like they truly believe it. They obviously want the best for others. And then in my case, because they know I'm from China, I think to them they are like there is a kind of an ingrained belief that if I can share the gospel to Ben, like this is like the God is telling me to be more evangelical and share that to this person in China who has never heard of it. I can empathetically get that. Just hindsight, I felt like there's a lot of like there are aspects of it that's quite pushy. I wish that I'm gonna make this video a more of a compliment sandwich. I wanted to talk about the things that I personally weren't as satisfied about, and then I also want to talk about things that I'm happy about. Since it was truly 3 years of my time. Besides going to school, getting ready for college, I did have I spent a good amount of time with the Lord's Recovery. And so let me talk more about the things that I have issues with. It's I don't I'm sure this probably same with a lot of evangelical religions. It's just like when you're in this group of community and you have very devout folks and your access to this group of people is just these people, like it's quite compelling. Because to me, when I became like a Christian, um, I think there wasn't a defining moment. It was more like I remember going to school and the mainstream school, King's Academy, and we had like some really great Bible teachers, and I just remember this teacher was so nice and so caring and like a good Christian, and it was not as the teacher was white, so it was not as strict, as the feeling that I'm getting from the Lord's Recovery. So like, and then that one moment I was like, if this teacher from my school who doesn't go to my church is looks like she's having a great life, there's so much joy that I can perceive from her. Like being a Christian sounds like a great thing. So I remember that day I was like, okay, if that's, if this person displays so much faith and are so happy about it, like this to me is kind of the proof that I should just take in and to just to be part of that. So I think that kind of is one step that kind of consolidated more of my Christian journey along the way. There are a couple other things that Lord's Recovery does to kind of strengthen one's faith. One of the thing, a good memory that I had when I was there was they have these yearly retreats. I was really always looking forward to go to these retreats. It's essentially a couple hundred kids from all the locations of Lord's Recovery, and then they all come together to the Redwood Alliance, uh, like somewhere in the woods, and you spend a whole weekend, and then from the morning to the evening, you will have hours and hours of learning about the Bible, aka being taught. There's a speaker in front, and there's singing. There's a lot of singing, and there's a lot of standing up, and there was a lot of like, if all these brothers are standing up, you should be standing up too. So there's a lot of that I observed, and then I was part of. To me, a couple of my best memories were at Redwood Alliance. Um, Kind of after all the meetings, we would go to play basketball. We would go play sports like volleyball and things like that. Was there like a frustrating moment? I think there was one moment I was quite getting like a little bit more frustrated was I think it was junior year. The pressure of college is starting to happen more, and I don't exactly remember. I think there was one time I was invited to a that is outside of Lord's Recovery, and I asked my guardian at the time, like, can I go to this thing? And I don't recall getting a positive response, so I felt a little bit let down. Hindsight, I wish that I had more of a I had a more of a freedom to check out different churches, at least, and because right now, like the year 2026, Like I'm not currently really that involved with all the church friends that I made back 10 years ago, and I wish that I was a bit more involved with uh, the classmates I had at the school. So and how I eventually left the Lord's Recovery was because my time in Northern California was up. I graduated high school in 2016. I got an offer from an art college called the Maryland Institute College of Art, and so I get to go away for the first time, like apart from the church. I thought. But my host family, the dad, he literally took me to the airport. He flew with me to Baltimore, which is where Micah is at. And then he took me to a saint, a brother of Lord's Recovery, who lives near Baltimore. He introduced me to the church life that is happening over there, and obviously in the hope that I remain active in this sector of the church. But our school was just kind of wild, and like it just eventually at that point it became more of a like I it became more of a I wish like I don't have to feel so controlled in terms of where I can be. I think that was like the one of the major, like, I guess, turnoffs, and and also obviously like first time from a Christian environment to like an art school, like 2016 environment on the East Coast. There was so much new things that were throwing at me in my first year in Micah. That was like it's almost my second cultural shock. People were doing some crazy stuff, and so yeah, so that's the last time I attended Lord's Recovery. I wanted to share a little bit of like I want to share some of the good side that I still feel um, due to my experience with having this faith background. I think obviously I wish I had more freedom, but by attending Lord's Recovery, I had the I think by having some faith based kind of involvement at a young age, I think it helps a lot with being, helping the person in my me as an example to be a bit more empathetic. And because that one big phrase is help your neighbor, help yourself, things like that. I would say overall, like 10 years later, I am thankful that I have a experience with this church. Like it probably helped me avoided a lot of crap that that I might get involved with if they weren't as strict. Because I know I was a very naughty kid, and because my host family weren't my parents, even though now they were like godparents, obviously, like I couldn't like really act up. So um, whatever they said to me was the rule. Like I didn't want to go against them. I kind of just went, I just followed along. This is actually my first time starting to share this experience. I feel like when the channel gets opened up more, I as I grow more, I think I want to look into more about kind of think a little bit more critically, to continue to think about this experience. I'm curious on if any of you also have experience with this church. Are you still with this church, or have you moved on? And to me, like the experience, I wanted to say it's particular. It's still. I think it's a decently positive experience. That's also because I don't have the alternative, and I don't like the idea of not having an alternative choice. Um, but I choose to think that the experience I had, that I'm very grateful for, um, it shaped me to be a more empathetic person. Because after I got to college, I met a lot of other people who are like me, who are Chinese international students. Many of them did not really a um, have a kind of a Christian experience. I like if I had the say in it, like I kind of wish, like, man, if they have a little bit of the experience that I had with Lord's Recovery or any like faith situation, I think it will help a lot for like foreigners, for immigrants, international students to understand uh, like the American culture even more. And and also, like, hindsight, it was quite useful that, like, because later on, fast forward to 2021, I started working for the American celebrity Kanye West, as a designer. He was in the era of he was in the era of like Jesus is, it's like after like Jesus is King. So like he was like doing Sunday services, and like I'm glad, I have the international perspective because I'm from China, and but I also like had the experience growing up in an American church. So I felt like I understand it, and like to have more of an appreciation of faith. We'll love to talk about this more in depth, maybe with another fellow human being on this subject. I'll see you in the next video. If you like this, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much. Bye.